I have no idea how Kobold Press knew, but the Cleric is my absolute third favorite class to play in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And now we get a full 20 level playtest for the Cleric in Tales of the Valiant. And here it is, everybody, and I want to jump straight into action, otherwise these videos take way too long. If you like this kind of content, by the way, subscribe to my channel. Also, my hairdresser is on a holiday, so this is what I'm dealing with right now, so that's what you're dealing with if you're watching this video. The Cleric for Tales of the Valiant. The first thing I'm going to say is, in general, like, overall, it feels and looks exactly like the Cleric in 5th edition. Now, for me personally, that is a good thing. I know there's a lot of people who hate the fact that Tales of the Valiant is shaping up to be something really similar to 5th edition, but I think that's great, especially with this class. They took some stuff. They took like the general idea of the Cleric, so you know what to expect, you know you can cast spells and cantrips, and you know like turn on that and all that stuff, but they fixed some wordings, they fixed some minor things, they took some things out and put some new things in, making it fresh and another option of playing a Cleric next to the option of playing a 5th edition Cleric. So yeah, all of the basic stuff is the same. Your saves are Wisdom and Charisma, your hit die is 1d8 plus your Constitution level per level. All of that stuff is the same. You get a mace, you get a warhammer, you can cast spells, you can cast cantrips, you have some of the abilities that the Cleric has in 5th edition. Now, one thing that I want to point out immediately is actually this one here. They did a weird thing. They really did a weird thing. So, it used to be in Tales of the Valiant that you had rings and you had circles. The ring determined the level of a spell, and the circle determined the source of a spell, either it being primal or whatever, divine or arcane, whatever. Now they took away the word ring and they switched it with circle. So circle now doesn't mean source anymore. Circle now means ring, which means level. So the circle is now the level of the spell, and they used the word source in order to determine what source the magic comes from, either it being, like they say right here, arcane, divine, primordial, or weird. So I think that is in a way a good thing. Circles and rings, I didn't really like confuse me personally, but it confused some people. That's at least what they're saying right here. For me, it was okay. I liked it, but now what I don't like about this is that they changed rings into circles. I would have loved circles and source. Sorry, rings and source, because rings just is, I don't know, it's just, it has a ring to it, no pun intended, but I just think personally it could be a better word to have a ring as a spell level, but now it's circle is a spell level, the source is the source. That is the way it's going to be right now. So there is a progression table, all of that stuff, and I have some notes right there on my laptop that I just want to talk about. So first thing was the rings become circles and circles become source. You need to read that yourself if you still can't figure out what they mean by that. You have your spell save DC, all of that stuff, ritual casting, and then something that I really like, which is the manifestation of faith, which is a first level Cleric feature. So now, for Tales of the Valiant, all of the classes get their subclass at level 3. Meaning that at level 1, normally you get your Divine Domain for 5th edition, but now you don't. But they have a way to kind of do that anyway, which is manifestation of faith. And you basically choose how your faith towards your god or gods manifests it in you. So you have the manifest might or the manifest miracles. The might is basically you get proficiency with heavy armor and weapons. You can infuse your weapon strikes with divine energy. Once of each of your turns, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can cause the attack to deal damage, radiant or necrotic, equal to your proficiency bonus. And the miracles is kind of more like the Cleric who's in the background with like a robe and cloth, right? You learn one additional cantrip of your choice from any source of magic, which is really cool. This cantrip counts as divine cantrip for you, but it doesn't count against the number of cantrips you know. Additionally, you can add your proficiency bonus to damage you deal with any divine cantrip, which is cool because it used to be so that the subclass you took for, like the domain you took for the Cleric, kind of determined how you were going to play that character, that cleric, in combat scenarios and likes. Now you can easily play a, I don't know, a domain that doesn't necessarily give you like, you can play like off type, right? It used to be so that live domain clerics almost always were clerics who were on the front line, healing people and dishing out some punches. But now you could be a live domain, but also have the additional cantrip and are more of like a live domain miracle worker, which I absolutely love. Now, all of the other stuff is really basic up till here. There's a channel divinity, now becomes turn the profane, which is really cool. Because of one reason, now you can turn fiends and undead. It used to be so that it was called turn undead, but they go for undead and fiends, which are the profane, right? So I think that's a cool addition to it. It expands upon the cleric's the usability of the channel divinity, because channel divinity turn undead was such a situational thing personally for me that I think a lot of people will like that to be able to use that a little bit more than they were using it before, which rhymes, of course. Another thing that I noticed immediately, so this is like a full review of the class, word per word, because although everything is like generally the same, they changed some wordings and they changed some mechanics around a little bit, like just by changing the words, but all of that stuff needs playtesting before you can like really say like, oh, it's like how it plays out in your games, right? And which is going to be personal, different for everybody, right? The improvement part, where you normally get an ability score improvement, it is called, right? Level 4, yes, ability score improvement. Now it's just called improvement, which does the same stuff as it does in 5th edition. It does either a +2 on one score or a +1 on 2 scores, but then they do something. Increase one ability score by 1 and select a talent, which is a feat, from the magic talent list. Which are in the alpha release. I don't see anybody going for the +2 anymore, because these feats, these talents, are getting a talent. It used to be so that you either got your ability score improvement or a feat. Now you can have like a lower ability score improvement and a feat. So I don't personally see a lot of reason to not take the 3rd ability, and that is typically Kobold Press, Tales of the Valiant. It is DnD on steroids. They're really going for stronger player characters, but also stronger monsters and stronger traps and stronger environmental stuff that goes down. So yeah, I like that it is in here, but I don't see anybody going for this anymore. So kind of doesn't balance. It's just unbalanced. Like, this option for me is clearly, especially for like somebody who really builds their characters in a way where like they take from level 1 they have 2 17s, right? And then at level 4 they make 1 18 and a feat, and at level 8 they make another 1 18 and a feat, which just gives them an incredible power strike thingy. So that is everything I want to say about the base class, because it only goes to like, there is at level 10 there is a heroic boon, which is really cool because they are passive abilities. The Gift of Divine basically preserves your corpse for a year and a day, making it so that people can go and get some money in order to revivify you. And Gift of Wrath basically makes you choose between necrotic damage or radiant damage. You become resistant to that, and you can dish out some extra damage. But these are passive. You just have that stuff, which is great. It's something to write down on your character sheet, but it's not like really an extra thing you need to take into account, like, oh, I can do this. No, you just have this, which I always like, having some more passive abilities. And then it jumps and it just jumps to 20th level, which is the epic boon, which makes your divine intervention stronger. Your divine intervention is basically just you asking your god for a divine intervention, and it has a low success rate, higher than in 5th edition, but lower low, still kind of low success rate, but with Epic Boon, it just always works. On level 20, it just always works. All of the other stuff that you get are in the subclasses. Which takes us to the live domain right here. And I have to admit that when I first read this, I was kind of let down. No, I was a lot let down. Because on a first glance, it is basically a carbon copy of the live domain that I have in my hands right here, which is an excerpt from the player handbook that is falling apart. So, Bless, Cure Wounds, Lesser Restoration, Spiritual Weapon, Beacon of Hope, Revivify, Death Ward, Guardian of the Faith, Mass Cure Wounds. The only difference here is that they get rid of Raise Dead and they add Greater Restoration. Now, I thought to myself, this is too much of a carbon copy. Like, the spell list is too much of a carbon copy. But then I thought, wait a second, Raise Dead never really had a place for me personally for a live domain cleric. It has more of a place in like a grave domain or whatever domain cleric, but like a live domain, Raise Dead, you're basically not like raising that. You're not bringing life by raising that. Anyway, so it didn't really make sense. So having Greater Restoration there instead of Raise Dead is actually a good thing. But then I scrolled down and there is still Preserve Life. There is still Disciple of Life. There is still Blessed Healer. And the text that is under this is almost Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V type stuff, which is okay because that is allowed in a way that 5th edition now is open source. You can just copy all of that stuff. You can basically reprint the player handbook with different art and just sell it if you want. But I don't know if that's exactly true, but you know what I mean. So it's all the same stuff. There is, instead of Supreme Healing, they're calling it Perfect Healing. But it does exactly the same thing. But then I saw that instead of Divine Strike, they now have Greater Preservation, which is a channel divinity. You can now preserve life. Your Preserve Life feature can now affect any creature within 60 feet of you. Preserve Life is a channel divinity you get as the cleric. But since you are a live domain cleric, you now can do that within 60 feet of you on level 11. Additionally, when you use channel divinity Preserve Life, one target of your choice can receive one of the following benefits in addition to having its hit points restored. Cure all diseases, neutralize all poisons, and blinded, deafened, paralyzed, or poisoned. By the way, here there should be the word your should be right here. So I need to tell that to the people from Kobold Press that they have like a small typo right here. Anyway, this is like something that came in place of Divine Strike. Again, Divine Strike had no place for a live cleric. You could strike harder, but that makes more sense for a War Domain cleric. A freaking Chaos Domain cleric, whatever domain cleric that's based on beating the shit out of people, but healing the shit out of people. Greater Preservation makes way more sense. And then I actually realized that basically, I think this is a really good game design. They took something that wasn't broke, but they just fixed the loose parts. It's like my van. I'm always fixing my van. I'm always fixing stuff that's not broke. I just fix it because it's getting like almost loose, right? So that's what they did. They kind of just replaced the small thing. There's nothing wrong with the live domain in the 5th edition handbook. It's a great domain. It just had one or two faulty things, which they just fixed. They got a really great new ability, new channel divinity, and they just switched 2 spells around, which I think for the live domain, my favorite domain of the cleric ever, is great. And then last but not least, there is the War Domain. Now, I don't have a lot of experience, admittedly, with the War Domain. I had one really passionate player who played the War Domain cleric once, and he's going to be really pissed off for there not being a War God's Blessing anymore. Because he once shouted War God's Blessing all across the table while smashing miniatures and dice around and yelling very charismatic War God's Blessing, which is gone for Tales of the Valiant, which is a shame. But other than that, it's just personal from our game. It is more different than the live domain is, but I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I cannot really talk about this one that much. The only thing that I can say that I like from a game design standpoint is that the War Domain Cleric used to have 2 Channel Divinity options, which was great. You have more options for Channel Divinity. More options is always great, right? But Channel Divinity is such a limited resource that I personally think having 1 Channel Divinity and then having another one that is also really cool, but it doesn't take from your pool of Channel Divinity castings per day is a great idea. So they have the Disciple of War. Basically, once per turn, when you successfully hit a creature while using an attack action, you can choose to make an additional weapon attack as part of the same action. So if you are standing in the back shooting arrows, or you're standing in the front hitting somebody with a mace, it says attack action, it doesn't say melee attack action. You can do that equal a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which is really cool. I think they should add a cleric level to that, or half your cleric level or something like that to that. But I think that's a cool option. Also, the fact that it's not melee based means that you could be a War Domain Cleric that is either fully plated up to the bone, who has like all of the weapon proficiencies, and you're being a War Domain Cleric beating the shit out of people, or you can be a sorry for my Discord notification sounds, or you can be a War God, a War Domain, you can be a War God, you can be a War Domain Cleric who is just standing in the back shooting bow and arrow or casting a cantrip, because you have taken that option at level 1 where you have the extra cantrip and you're more like casting cantrips, because yeah, that is really, I think that is really cool, really good game design. Now, other than that, they just give us the spell list that we can choose from, but the spell descriptions are in the alpha release. And although a lot of the stuff is the same as the old Cleric, like some of the wording is a little bit different, which means that you're going to have to playtest that for your table, for your Dungeon Master, for your players or whatever, in order to actually make up your mind if it's any good or it just doesn't work. That's stuff that I cannot really review because I need to play that like 4 or 5 times before I do that. And that's it. That is a very basic rundown of the Cleric class for Tales of the Valiant. At least it is a playtest. It's not going to be the final edition, but it's 20 levels of Cleric, which is always good to have. And if you playtesting this, or whatever your opinion on Tales of the Valiant or your worries about it are, make sure to put that in the comments below, because I want to really hear from you, because I want to really, with this channel, cover more Tales of the Valiant as more stuff keeps coming out. If you like this kind of content on this channel, if you like Tales of the Valiant being covered on this channel, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit me up with a comment. Until next video, bye bye.